junkie. I'm not on Goose level by any means, but I'm a sports junkie. I like watching all kinds of sports, all kinds of events. I'll tune in for even like the match or whatever. It's not really a sport, but it's just an exhibition just because it's entertaining. It's fun. That's the first game in a long time I've turned off. And I turned it off in the first half. It was a joke. And I had my stages of viewing grief because I tuned in a little bit for the pregame. That was disinteresting. Turned it off. Flicked back on for the beginning of the game in the regular TNT broadcast, which was fine. Players obviously didn't care. And then I said, okay, well, I'll go watch Draymond Green and Charles Barkley on the alternative cast because at the very least, the game sucks, but maybe they'll say something that's funny and interesting. And I still couldn't keep my attention. I did not want to watch that basketball game. I don't want to watch any part of All-Star Weekend by the time that Sunday was over. It felt like I had just wasted part of my life watching all of those different events. And I think that's why the quotes from Adam Silver after the game were as revealing as they were, which is basically, hey, out of the East, they scored the most points. Congrats.
888-957-9570. Steiny and Evan Giddings with you on a Monday holiday. And how do you fix that crap? Like, how do you fix that crap? And here's the funny thing is, here's what I think is kind of interesting. 10 or 15 years ago, we talked about the NBA All-Star games. It's a pickup game. And it might have been. It is significantly worse than a pickup game. It's exponentially worse than a pickup game. At least in a pickup game. A natural pickup game is competitive. And a natural pickup game, guys try at least a little bit because they want to keep the court. This exhibition they have, there's two big points of emphasis for the players. One is, and you hit this one, don't get embarrassed. That's the number one thing these guys are out to reinforce. They don't want to get embarrassed and they don't want to get hurt. That's the only reason they're playing. As far as I'm concerned, they're not there to compete. They're not there to. They're not even there to put on a show anymore. They're just there to go through the motions. 888-957-9570. What do? Do you even care? What happens? What do you do? And here's the other thing. I do not believe the answer is give the winning team $1 million. I mean, come on. Really? That's what we have to do? Why? And
you're already doing that for the in-season tournament.
Exactly. And then the old society thing or the old sports compared to the old days. Why don't they care at all? Why don't the players, in theory, have any pride in this game? Well, the old-timers had prime. Why do these guys not have prime? Well, it's the money, Stein. Okay, well, is there any way to fix it? Is there any way to fix that crap this weekend? And I'll tell you, oh, by the way, it'll be here in San Francisco next weekend or next year. How many are you going? How many of you guys would pay? What's it even cost to get to an all-star game? Hundreds? Maybe thousands? I mean, may as well just donate it to charity or something.
Well, that's the thing. No matter how much you spent, I can't imagine anybody walked out of the Indiana Fieldhouse feeling like they got their money's worth. I mean, maybe you got to, bump shoulders with a famous person here and there, or I'm sure there was some different events they had during quarters or timeouts, but I don't know if you caught this. They asked Anthony Davis what his favorite part of the game was.
Yeah.
He said the Indiana dunk team during one of the breaks in the third quarter. So a player in the game, their favorite part about the game was something that the fans got to witness and that he got to witness, not actually participating in the game. They shouldn't call it the NBA All-Star Game anymore. They should call it the NBA All-Star Event because it is exactly that. It's an event. It's not a game. It doesn't involve competition, and it's a bigger part of the NBA All-Star break. It's a break. Right. They look at it like a chance to just kick their feet up, get a sweat in, not get embarrassed, not worry about who's getting the ball, who's not. There's nothing competitive about that game that makes me as a viewer feel invested in any way, shape, or form. And I think this is due to a couple things. Number one, you're right, the money. the amount of money that they have to potentially lose if they get injured in a game like this, which is technically meaningless, and incentive doesn't change anything in my mind. And secondly, the vets. Who lost the game? Significantly, by the way. The Western Conference. Where are all of the upperclassmen, the old heads, the established all-star players are all on the Western Conference team? LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. All these guys, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, these guys don't care about the All-Star game. And so, yeah, it's a great opportunity. Hey, let's let Shai Gilgeous-Alexander go get his shots up. In the East, all the tryhards are in the East, right? Giannis, Dame, and then the young guys trying to prove themselves. Tyrese Halliburton, all these guys, even Trae Young. This is a game for them. This is a game that the old heads don't care about anymore. And I just feel like there's no point in playing the game at this point.
What did Larry Bird do to have to sit courtside for that crap?
He lost a bet.
Poor guy. I mean, Larry Bird watching that guy. 888-957-9570. How you fixing that crap? Couple good ones already on the Comcast Business text line. We can kind of go through a couple of them. The winner can get an extra pick. An extra draft pick, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I don't know
how you divvy it up.
Here's one, and you brought this comparison up. The 510 said, look, the All-Star game is no worse now than the Pro Bowl. I agree, and that's a problem.
It's a problem.
It's a big problem.
And what did the NFL do? They turned the Pro Bowl into a flag football game.
Right.
Whatever the equivalent of a flag football game is in the NBA is what they should turn the All-Star game into. Because, and I said this to you before the show, I agree with the Comcast Business text line. It's the Pro Bowl. Players don't care. Players have nothing to gain, and they feel like they have everything to lose. Especially during the middle of the season, the Pro Bowl's after the year, or in between the end of the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So just turn it into whatever the equivalent of a flag football game is for the NBA, whether that's more three-point shooting contests, more dribbling events. Maybe you showcase some of the younger guys more. You take a look at the G League and the type of talent they have, because it's about the stars, but the stars don't care.
Right.
And if you don't have buy-in from the best in the game, your event's not going to be watchable. Again, the only thing that I enjoyed about the game last night was at points in the broadcast where Draymond and Barkley were going at it. And I know we can get into that sound later, but there was nothing about the actual basketball game that was enticing enough for me to say this is worth my time. There's a reason I don't watch the Pro Bowl. And as much as I would love to go to Chase Center and witness firsthand the All-Star game next year in San Francisco, Adam Silver's got a problem. And that problem now falls at Joe Lacob's feet because he's got to try and dress this game up like it's something more than it actually is.
Yep. 707 wants maybe take a page out of the baseball handbook and make it determine the finals home court team. Obviously, go back to East and West, or because they didn't do East and West, I guess, a couple years ago.
But I believe they even took that out of Major League Baseball.
Did they? Have they done that?
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I just find it, maybe Karl Anthony Towns will play a little harder, wanting that home court, because Minnesota's locked in, but with all due respect, what does Tyrese Halliburton care if you're a 5th or 6th seed? This one I kind of like, but you know what? I like this idea, but I don't think it'll happen. You know why? Because it'll be too competitive. What if it were USA versus the world? That's from Philly in the 408. I've always liked that idea, but you know what? That hits. It's really hard because you got to be careful not to make the stakes too high, because that's not what these guys want, because they're on a vacation almost. And Anthony Edwards basically said, I'm not playing hard. Yeah. It's an exhibition. I don't want to get hurt.
It's less competitive. It might be less competitive than preseason, because at least in preseason you have players fighting for roster spots. You have players fighting for a hierarchy on their team.
Want to know how to make the players care about the All-Star more? Make the outcome decide who has home court advantage in the finals. See, I don't think that may work for a handful of guys, but let's Let's say they did that and that happened this year. So who's number one in the West right now? Minnesota?
Yeah.
They got Towns and Edwards. Well, Edwards already said he doesn't want to play hard. But maybe he'll play hard because in the number one seed. I find it hard to believe. I mean, any players on a 5th seed or lower, that's not going to matter to them one iota.
I think you'd probably get pushback from the Players Association. Like a game that doesn't mean anything cannot stand for NBA Finals home court. Like, for example, if the Warriors, won 73 games in 2016 and they're facing a 50-win Cavs team, you're telling me the Cavs should get home court advantage?
That's true.
Then you de-incentivize the regular season. So, and then what's to play for it? The final 29 games, or I guess there's less. But the other part about it too is it all comes down to just optics for these players, and that's why I think that's as ideal of a U.S. versus the world competition. I think that'd be really cool, but you know what you got now? Well, the world might be better than the U.S.
True.
Giannis, Jokic, Doncic, and the last thing that I think the league wants is getting embarrassed by world players beating you at your own game. So then you also have an embarrassment issue.
Yeah. There's also something about, I was telling you this before the show, there's just something about the NBA All-Star Weekend that's just such a turnoff. It's hard to describe, but having gone to a bunch of All-Star games in the past and knowing that it's just escalated and escalated, it's like the weekend is it's gluttony. It's bacchanalia, really. That's why guys go, and I'm not begrudging them that. They play 6 months, they get a week off, they have to go to Indianapolis. You know what? They're going there. They're going there to party. And then I take it a step further, and I'm like, shouldn't an All-Star game kind of be for the fans? I remember All-Star games used to be a little bit, that's kind of cool because the have-nots and the haves all kind of get together and regular old fans get to see their favorite players. But now it's like, you can't go to an All-Star game unless you're a have. I'm talking about a fan. You can't get in anywhere. It's just a turnoff. The whole thing to me is a turnoff, and it's the opposite of what basketball should be about. This game is getting way too individual versus team, and it's been that way since David Stern started marketing stars way back in the day.
I mean, I think at first it obviously helped the league, but you're getting to a point where it's kind of been diluted or watered down. I'll ask you this, and I know you had a lot of stuff going on this weekend, and appreciate you being back, and much love to your entire family. But from what you read and kind of saw, what do you think the best part of the NBA All-Star Weekend was?
Generally it's Saturday, I would say, and I think it's the 3-point shooting contest. And I think the dunk contest still can be good, but they got to button it up more. They've got to really figure out the format, maybe stick to it and all that kind of stuff. The 3-point, they try to do, they still have the skills thing where the guys dribble and throw a ball.
Oh, yeah. And you see Scotty Barnes dribble it into the first row.
I didn't.
Okay.
Believe it or not, and this is also something I'll share. There were about 4 times during the course of this weekend where I was like, why don't you pop on the game? I was like, I'm not popping that on. Well, I just, and it really does. Like if I told you, Bay Area, I didn't watch any of that crap this weekend, would you say, well, then you don't love the game, Steiny? You think you love the game. You think you love basketball, but you don't. You don't. Because that's basketball. That's where the greatest players are playing this weekend, and it was right there. I'm not watching that. In fact, I'll make a case that if you truly love basketball, you shouldn't watch it.
Well, and that's the thing. I wonder if real hoop heads actually watched the game. Because what I saw from social, and I turned it off in the second quarter, I think that there was a lot of stuff that trickled out over social media, and the word that I kept seeing, if you just put into your, your X or Twitter Explore search engine, disrespect, the amount of tweets that's associated with the All-Star game it just continues to mount. That game was disrespectful to people who like basketball. It was disrespectful to Larry Bird. It was disrespectful to the players who participated. It was disrespectful to everyone that has come before. Like, this was a weekend, they had an opportunity to honor Larry Bird in his home state. I think they had a nice tribute for Oscar Robertson, who I believe is from Indianapolis, and put that city on the map in a lot of ways. It's disrespectful to them. Like, it's disrespectful to everything you're trying to honor. And that's kind of the sentiment that I got from people who actually enjoy watching these kind of games, because you're hoping to see the best of the best, but you're not. Like, it's the only opportunity in which you can see players at an all-NBA level play against each other, because they just don't get to do it. And You're not going to see those pickup games televised. The Olympic practices maybe, but those aren't televised. There's no other place in which you can see the greatest collection of talent play against each other, and they choose not to compete.
The game I watched the most, or the one thing I paid the most attention to basketball-wise this weekend, was Caitlin Clark breaking the women's scoring record.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how come? Well, because it was a regular game, and it counted in the standings and all that kind of stuff. So I did catch a little of the Caitlin Clark stuff. Let's go.